Chapter 3, in which Pooh and Piglet go hunting and nearly catch a wazzle. The piglet lived in a very grand house in the middle of a beech tree, and the beech tree was in the middle of the forest, and Piglet lived in the middle of the house. Next to his house was a piece of broken board, which had Trespassers W on it. And Christopher Robin asked the piglet what it meant. He said that it was his grandfather's name, and had been in the family for a long time. Christopher Robin said, "You couldn't be called Trespassers W." And Piglet said, "Yes, you could, because his grandfather was. And it was short for Trespassers Will, which was short for Trespassers William. And his grandfather had two names in case he lost one. Trespassers after an uncle, and William after Trespassers." "I've got two names," said Christopher Robin carelessly. "Well, there you are. That proves it," said Piglet. One fine winter's day, when Piglet was brushing away snow in the front of the house, he happened to look up, and there was Winnie the Pooh. Pooh was walking around and round in a circle, thinking of something else. And when Piglet called to him, he just went on walking. "Hello," said Piglet. "What are you doing?" "Hunting," said Pooh. "Hunting for what?" "Tracking something," said Winnie the Pooh, very mysteriously. "Tracking what?" said Piglet, coming closer. "That's just what I asked myself. I asked myself what." "What do you think you'll answer?" "I shall have to wait until I catch it. I catch up with it," said Winnie the Pooh. "Now look there." He pointed to the ground in front of him. "What do you see there?" "Tracks," said Piglet. "Paw marks." He gave a little quick excitement. "Oh, Pooh, do you think it was, a woozle? Or wazzle? Guess I'd wazzle first. It's a wazzle." "It may be," said Pooh. "Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. You never can tell with paw marks." With these few words, he went on tracking. Piglet, after watching him for a minute or two, ran after him. Winnie the Pooh had come to a sudden stop, and he was bending over tracks, puzzled sort of way. "What's the matter?" asked Piglet. "It's a very funny thing," said Bear. "But there seems to be two animals now. This, whatever it is, has been joined by another, whatever it is. And the two of them are now proceeding in company. Would you mind coming with me, Piglet, in case they turn out to be hostile animals?" Piglet scratched his ear in a nice sort of way, said that he had nothing to do till Friday, and would be delighted to come, in case it really was a woozle. "You mean, in case it really is two woozles," said Winnie the Pooh, and Piglet said that anyhow he had nothing to do until Friday. So off they went together. There was a small, spiny, large tree just there, and it seemed as if the two woozles, if that is what they were. There was a small, spiny, large tree just here, and it seemed as if the two woozles, if that is what they were, had been going round the Spiny, so round the Spiny and Pooh and Piglet after them. Piglet passing the time by telling Pooh what his grandfather, Trespasser W, had done to remove stiffness after tracking, and how his grandfather, Trespassers W, had suffered in his later years from shortness of breath and other matters of interest, and Pooh was wondering what a grandfather was like, and if perhaps this was two grandfathers they were after now, and if so, whether he would be allowed to take one home and keep it, and what Christopher Robin would say. And still, the tracks went on in front of them. Suddenly, Winnie the Pooh stopped and pointed excitedly. "Look!" "What?" said Piglet, with a jump, and then, to show that he wasn't been frightened, he jumped up and down, twice more, in an exercising sort of way. "The tracks," said Pooh. "A third animal has joined another two." "Pooh," cried Piglet, "do you think it's another woozle?" "No," said Pooh, "because it makes different marks. It's either two woozles and one, as it might be Wizzle, or two, as it might be Wizzles, and one, if so it is, Woozle. Let us continue and follow them." So they went on, feeling just a little anxious now, in case the three animals in front of them were of the hostile intent, and Piglet wished very much that his grandfather, T.W., were there, instead of elsewhere. And Pooh thought how nice it would be if they met Christopher Robin suddenly, and quite accidentally, and only because he liked Christopher Robin so much. And then, all of a sudden, Winnie the Pooh stopped again, and licked the tip of his nose in a cooling manner, for he was feeling more hot and anxious than ever in his life before. There were 4 animals in front of them. "Do you see?" said Piglet. "Look at their tracks. 3 as it were woozles, and 1 as it were Wizzle. Another woozle has joined them." And so it would seem to be. There were the tracks, crossing over each other here, getting muddled up with each other there, but quite plainly, every now and then, the tracks of 4 sets and paws. "I think," said Piglet, when he licked the tip of his nose too, and found that it brought him little comfort, "I think that I may have just remembered something. I've just remembered something that I forgot to do yesterday, and shan't be able to do tomorrow. So I suppose I really ought to go back and do it now." "We'll do it this afternoon, and I'll come with you," said Pooh. "Isn't that sort of thing you can do in the afternoon?" said Piglet quickly. "It is a very particular morning thing that has to be done in the morning, and if possible, between the hours of—" "What would you say the time was?" "About 12, said Winnie the Pooh, looking at the sun. "Between, as I was saying, the hours of 12 and 12:05. So really, dear old Pooh, if you'll excuse me—" "What's that?" Pooh looked up to the sky, and then he heard a whistle again. He looked up to the branches of a big oak tree, and then he saw his friend of his. "It's Christopher Robin," he said. "Ah, then you'll be all right," said Piglet. "You'll be quite safe with him. Goodbye." And he trotted off home quickly as he could, very glad to be out of all danger again. Christopher Robin came slowly down this tree. "Silly old bear," he said. "What were you doing?" "First you went round the spiny twice by yourself. Then Piglet ran after you, and went around again together. And then you were just going round a fourth time." "Wait a moment," said Winnie the Pooh, holding his paw. He sat down and thought, in the most thoughtful way he could think. Then he fitted his paw into one of the tracks, and then scratched his nose twice and stood up. "Yes," said Winnie the Pooh. "I see now," said Winnie the Pooh. "I have been foolish and deluded," he said, "and I am a bear of no brain at all." "You are the best bear in the world," said Christopher Robin soothingly. "Am I?" said Pooh hopefully. And then he brightened up suddenly. "Anyway," he said, "it's nearly luncheon time." So we went home for it.